Hi, Lisa Schermerhorn here on Where Truth Lies, and I am so excited to introduce you all to actually an old friend of mine. We actually studied together shamanism, I want to say, was that 15 years ago?
Yeah, 10, 15 years
10,
ago.
15 years ago, Kalashree Sengupta, and she's an extraordinary woman. She's been through a lot in her life, and she's taken a lot of her own personal experience, and she's penned her first book, The Man Traps, Reclaiming Your Power and Intuition in Relationships. And I think all of you who are watching right now could relate to some part of what she has to say. So, Kalashree, welcome and congratulations on your new book. I'm so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for having me here, and thank you for just giving the time and space for this conversation. Really appreciate getting back in touch with you.
Yeah, yeah. So, Kalashree was in the US. You went to school there, and then now you're back in India. Um, so, what's it been like, living in both the US and India and going back? What was that transition like for you?
So the US was, it was fun while it lasted, but I think the part of the US that there was a call to the US with shamanism and healing work.
Yeah.
Majority of my training in healing work was actually in the US. But then I think the call came back to my roots and my
Yeah.
homeland, and it's just such a community based living in India that I just and I don't have to wear a parka and boots, and I can just roam around in chappals and my bohemian clothes, and it just suits
You
me a
mean you
lot
didn't
better.
like the freezing cold of Boston and New England?
No, I mean it was good. I mean it was okay, but like 8 feet of snow on either side and maneuvering that in a Prius, like I think I'm done with that. So
So I want to go back to so people get a sense of you, um, you know, culturally. Indian culture is different. So you were raised in a very different culture from the standpoint of men when you talk about man traps. What is the culture like in India towards women and in relationships?
so it is pretty bleak. I mean, I wanted to have a love space from as you mentioned, but unfortunately in India there is no sugarcoating it. I mean, men feel entitled to women, and there is a very deep sense of entitlement. And in the villages, in the urban, even in the, I mean, I live in the city. I'm in Mumbai, and I get approached a lot of the time by people who really shouldn't be approaching me. And there is this sense that they own women, and that hasn't changed. And there is a lot of work that can be done. Um, it's just, I think it's a combination of patriarchy in India and then also the mommy syndrome. It's a combination. I've really thought about this a lot because I mean I wrote a book on relationships, so I had to think, like, why is there such a divide between the evolution of men here? And it is primarily, I think, patriarchy. Men just think they're superior and that they own women, so that needs to change.
So you also still have the culture of arranged marriages, correct?
Well, yes, but a lot of things are changing. I mean, the millennials and Gen Z are rapidly moving into the dating space. And what is happening is that a lot of people are on Tinder and Hinge. All those apps are available in India as well, and Bumble and all that. And now, what happens with that is there's a lot of scams going on as well.
Hmm.
So, like Shadi.com and all that was all arranged marriage. And then you have this entire dating pool kind of for the last, I think, 10 years or so. India has been seeing this upheaval of this dating app um, like environment. So it's moving towards that.
So with the movement towards dating apps, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Do you see from the standpoint, do men have to behave more because they know that they're being selected now instead of these arranged marriages that they didn't have to worry about how they treated women, or is there no difference at all?
No, in fact, I think what happens is this kind of next culture anywhere in the world, because I've dated in the US, I've dated in India, and I think what happens is you just treat people like options. And it's not just men, women too.
Hmm.
That old school romance that, I mean, I'm very old school. Like, I would like, that whole partner because you are whole and they are whole to come
Right.
together, and that's not happening. People are just wanting to meet their needs, and once those needs are met, they're going for novelty. So the it's really sad actually, because it's like a window shopping culture, like anywhere in the world. So
Right.
I mean, this dating app thing is there's not much pause, and there's a lot of trash out there. So you have to like sift through the trash, and and you may or may not get something palatable in that trash.
Wow.
So
Wow, it sounds bleak. And yesterday we had a conversation. You were saying to me that India is really the rape capital of the world. So
yeah,
how does that happen?
I mean, I mean, there's a movie that's come out called Assi, which literally means 80, and some points there are 80 rapes reported a day, and that's not even the realistic, because a lot of rapes are
They're
not
unreported.
reported.
Right.
Yeah, because women don't have the courage, and they know they will get traumatized by the legal and system and the law and enforcement, and you have to prove it, and it's just very, very daunting to get justice. So it's just really unfortunate, this so the consent, and I've written about this in my book, like this entire thing on consent and entitlement sort of set the foundation into this rape culture, where men just think that they can do whatever they want in India. So yeah, that's the unfortunate
That's
thing.
hard. So in writing this book and dealing with this kind of culture, what are you looking to set out, to accomplish with all of this? Like, if it feels that bleak right now, what do you think? Is this book just for women because it's called The Man Traps? Is this for men too? Like, what is your purpose in writing this then?
Okay, so even the dedication, it's dedicated to women who want clarity and truth and power, but also to men who are ready to tap into their vulnerability and their heart space. There are men who are just not there yet, and then there are men who, I know some sensitive men, so I know that it's happening. So the men who are ready to embrace their emotions and not suppress their needs, because it's all coming from suppressed anger, rage, hurt, and then they're just sexual needs, and then it's erupting, and all this, like watching all this porn, and then it's erupting in all this desire, right? So, if you're ready to face those emotions, then this book is definitely for men. If you're, and the men who get triggered by this are men who are shut down and don't
Yeah,
want to face the truth.
yeah.
So, if you're getting triggered, that's probably why.
Yeah, one of the things that I've always known is whenever I'm triggered, that's the thing that I need to work on the most, right?
Exactly, it's
So
hitting
if
home.
people
Yeah,
are feeling really uncomfortable right now, it's a nice mirror to take a look at. What
yeah.
is it in this that I need to look at for myself? So there's a lot of talk about the divine feminine and the divine masculine versus the toxic masculinity and, women and the whole idea of what the feminine actually is, because I know a lot of people over the past several years in when I've been doing this work have always referred to they didn't want to be feminine because they look at it as weakness. And I think that's the shadow of that the feminine. Do you talk about the difference between, that toxic feminine versus the divine feminine, what that looks like?
So, I think I have addressed patterns, shadow patterns of each of the man traps. And for me, and then not only have I done that, but I've also addressed shadow patterns of mine. I've taken full accountability that attracted these karmic magnets.
Mm.
So I didn't let myself off the hook that easily.
Darn it.
So, so like codependency would be a feminine toxic trait,
Yes.
which comes out as clinginess and neediness and wanting a man. A lot of the time, like for me, I was really outsourcing safety and protection.
Right.
And once I took charge of that in my life, I didn't really need a man. It was more I was whole and I could take complete care of myself. And then from that space, a divine masculine energy was coming. Earlier, it was I had to do a complete 180 from needing and needing. Oh,
Yes.
I suck my air. Like I need to breathe with love. Like it was like that. I mean,
Right. Right. Well, if you look at, and this is just one of the companies that did it. If you look at the Disney movies, how we as women are basically programmed and trained to be rescued by the White Knight. All
yeah,
of the Snow White, Disney, movies, Cinderella's, all of that, plants that idea of being rescued and the White Knight syndrome. And the problem is that once you don't need that anymore, what is the rest of the relationship based on, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately, you asked me what this book is ultimately about, and it's
Yeah.
ultimately about liberation. It's
Yeah.
about liberation for both men and women, that you don't need rescuing. You are complete within yourself and you're sovereign within yourself. And it's a path to, sort of letting go of all those wounds that are attracting these karmic relationships. And ultimately, if you, I'm sure you like resonate with this, we want to attract, when we are in higher frequencies, we want to attract dharmic partnerships where we are actually coming together and helping humanity in some way, right? We are
Exactly.
not just discussing about what dinner to make and like raising a bunch of kids and I mean nothing wrong with that, but then you're also doing something for the planet, for the greater good, and it's not just fighting and shouting and screaming and entanglements with your wounds. You want to get move past all that
Right.
and move into a higher frequency for the greater good of humanity, and that love is pure at that point. I mean,
You
I'm still in that hope of that somewhere that still exists beyond my dog.
it's so interesting because when you think about relationships as a whole, there's the divine feminine and masculine, there's that beautiful relationship, and then there's what I call the wound mate, right?
Yeah,
It's when my wounds are now mirroring someone else's wounds, and those are those compelling, like they get like this, and they feel beautiful in the beginning, right? They feel like this compelling, I can't live without this person, I can't breathe without that person. Those are the ones that end up pretty toxic if you don't heal that part of you and your partner doesn't heal that part of you
yeah,
or
that's a
them.
trauma bond, and
It
that
is a
goes on for
trauma bond.
years and years. And it's a double whammy if you attract someone with, and I had this one where I attracted someone who reflected part of my mother wound and part of my father wounds. I was really fucking screwed. Excuse my French.
Well, but we all do it. How many times you say, "Oh wow, I married my mother" or "I married my
Yeah,
father"? A lot of people do, and even look like them.
yeah. I was attracted to this older, like salt and pepper, beard, and I was like, man, I'm attracting my father again and again. And I finally broke that cycle. And how did I break that cycle? And I mentioned this in the book. I went to the root. I actually healed my father wound by forgiving the narcissism, by not holding grudges, by actually making him nourishing meals, and then he reciprocated and he softened towards me. And for a narcissist, he let's be very clear here, there was no 180 shift in him, but he did soften. And for a narcissist to even meet you like 20% of the way is pretty big.
That is
So
big.
yeah, so that shifted this salt and pepper daddy issue pattern that I was like constantly repeating. And it was always manipulative men, it was always narcissists, it was always somebody who was just like interested in exploiting me, so that
Yeah.
pattern really had to shift. And it couldn't shift by the men, it had to shift at the father wound level.
Yes.
So yeah.
And that's about forgiveness too.
Yeah.
It's about going into that place and saying, you know what, they did the best they could with what they had because of the way they were raised, and
Right.
letting go, because the more we hang on to the anger and the resentment, the more that wound stays there. And one of the things that I have really taken a look at around men is men that have mother wounds versus men who honor their mothers.
Yeah.
And I made a promise to myself that I would not date a man who has a big mother wound, because I'm making a gross generalization, but they tend not to respect women.
Oh,
They just
absolutely.
don't.
And they tend to be narcissists, because what is a narcissist? The inner child is not healed, and this is this outer shell which has taken over to sort of in effect of the in reaction to the mother wound. Usually that was what
Right.
was in my father's case. So to protect himself, this narcissist exterior has come up. So they'll almost likely be a narcissist, they'll almost likely even be abusive emotionally at least, and they'll not be respectful.
No.
So and they might even be misogynistic, so it's a real you know
So the
problematic.
key is, look, if you're interested in a man, look at the way they treat their mother, their
Yeah.
sisters.
Right.
That's
And even
that's
too much,
that's I'm sorry, go ahead.
enmeshment, say there's too much enmeshment with the mother.
That's
that's
true.
that's also not very healthy,
Yes.
because then,
You
so
don't want a mama's, the term, the mama's boy, but it's
yeah.
really about a respect thing.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's talked to me about, he loves to open doors for women. It's a respect thing. And he gets yelled at by women who say, I don't need you to hold the door open for me because I'm not weak. And he was like, it's not about that. It's about honoring and respecting, because as men and women, we have different roles.
Yeah.
So I would love, so you have different categories. I'd love to hear more about the categories in your book.
So I'll tell you what, actually it's an interesting kind of story what sparked the book,
Yeah.
right? So I had a very pivotal moment in my life in October, in last May actually, where I came across this man who was what I termed as a psychopathic pathological liar, which is my 10th man trap. And he was not a partner, but he was posing to be an emotional partner and gaining sympathy and kind of violating my trust on a mental, emotional level. And it was, in fact, a dream that woke me up to his lies. Like, I get ominous dreams when I'm going too far out in things which are detrimental to me. So before something can happen that is really, I'm, thank God I'm so protected that before I can really lose myself,
Really screw things up. So you got
get
some
out.
guards out there. You got some guards to put the gate down. I wish I had one of the... No, I do. I do have that too.
Yeah. It's
We
like,
all have
there
them.
she's going again, like jumping off the cliff. Like,
Yeah.
gotta send her a parachute,
Yeah,
you
or a
know.
bungee.
So that dream woke me up, and I actually confronted a common friend. And then I got all his, like, he was scamming young women
Oh,
for favors and money, and just emotionally exploiting vulnerable women. And that story event, it's not a story, it's a real, the entire book is
right.
real, like it's all lived experience. That shook me to my core. I was so out there obsessed with this twin flame nonsense. And then I was like, first of all, let me clarify this one thing. You are not half of a soul attracting another half of a soul. You are a whole being attracting another whole being. This concept that you're going to fit like half two halves, that in itself is hogwash.
Yeah.
Right?
When I hear, if you ever hear the words "you complete me," run.
Yeah, and you're my forever and all that, like in like the first day of meeting you, and they're like, you're my wife. I mean, these are all massive red flags. This is like love bombing. So yeah, that woke me up. And then the book sort of just one by one, it just flew out of me. The narcissist man trap, the advice giving, and in India they have a tendency to, they want progressive women, and then they want to control them. So they'll control my food habits, they'll control my clothing, they'll control the fact that I smoke the occasional cigarette, they'll control, everything about me, like who I'm hanging out with, where I'm going, what I'm wearing. Everything was controlled by various men. Sometimes one man controlled everything. And I'm such a free spirit that as soon as that starts, I exit. I'm like, see ya. So, like, gradually it all kind of started coming together. But as I sat with the book and as I realized it wasn't an attack on men to just name the man traps and the anecdotes. Some of them are even funny, like the pseudo spiritualist man trap is funny. The one who wears this, like the mala, and like wants to, get jiggy with all the women in the name of Tantra. So, and open all the chakras, as they
Yeah.
say in the US. So, um, it is, um, it just, but then it came, then there was the somatic exercises. Because what did I realize about myself? My body ran alarm bells in week one, and I didn't listen. And by the 6th month, I was so deep in the shit, and I was so deep with the consequences of my actions, that I was like, I need to build a manual for men and women, that your body is your instrument. And because I've been a healer and I know somatic work, I was like, you will shake when someone is wrong, or doing something wrong, or saying something wrong. Or there will be heaviness, your heart will pound. There are specific signals your body is giving you that this person is off. Your body will tell you when somebody's lying and manipulating.
Yeah.
So these are the main points of each of them. It
Yeah.
developed into all that.
So you give people tools
Yeah.
of how to work this, because you know I shared the story with you yesterday where I had, they teach us to make this list of the type of man, our dream man, and I had this whole page of all the things that were on the list, and this person met every list. So I'm like, everything on my list, so I was like, wow, this is amazing. We talk about all these things, and then I asked God to show me what I was missing, and then boom. And we were only dating, we only went on 4 dates.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, I had sent a photo that I was with a group of friends, and he got jealous, and I realized how controlling he was, and he broke up with me, saying that, he was leaving me to be with the great love of my life. And I started laughing. I'm like, wow, that was fast. That saved me 6 months of agony,
Yeah.
and then I had to sit with, what was it that I thought that I had all these things, and then it was completely like a mask for
Yeah.
all of those other things that you note. So it's not about just sitting there making a list and asking to manifest, right?
No, no, it's much, and I've always known that the law of attraction is only level one of what you can do for partnership. You have
Right.
to live who you are. You have to inculcate self-love. You have to align your divine male and divine masculine feminine energies
Yes.
um to become whole. You can't just be like, oh, I am whole, and just say it and then expect the universe to believe it. You have to
Yeah.
live it. You have to embody it. And then comes the next step, where you have to reject all the misaligned partners. So that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months. every week, 10 days, there's some new nincompoop who's like, hey, lady. Like, I'm like, no. So I'm just, excuse me, I'm just like rejecting, rejecting, rejecting. And what that does is it's empowering, right? It's empowering to be not somebody who is okay with scraps, because your bar is so high,
Right.
you
It's
know.
the sovereignty because you don't want to
Yes,
compromise. You're talking
right.
about the rest of your life, and one of the other things that's so hard is, the messages that we get from people that are constantly telling us, you're not whole unless you have a partner,
Yeah.
right? And so the constant, I had someone in my life who got so much pressure from their mother who was constantly saying, you can't have nice things until you get married. You have to register for when you get married. And then, she's going through her life, 20 years and she's still not married. And she's like, I want to get nice things. I don't have to wait
Yeah.
till I get married. Why am I
Right.
waiting? I want these
Yeah.
things now.
Yeah, and that's a part of self-love. Self-love isn't this mythical unicorn. I mean, treating yourself with luxury and dressing well and taking care of yourself. These are all why do you I mean, I look good when I go vegetable shopping and dog walking. I'm not doing this for a man. Like, I look good for myself. And
Yes.
that shift, sometimes I wonder, like, why am I buying new clothes? There's no one to date. And now I'm like, and I'm like, heck yeah, I'm gonna look like the little queen that I am, you know. So
But that's the divine feminine too. And I have to laugh because like during COVID when everyone was locked down and I saw people in their pajamas and didn't shower for like a week on end or weeks on end and I woke up every morning. I I would exercise. I would go on a walk because I live in the middle of nowhere. There's no one around me anyway. Come back, shower, and change and put a nice outfit on. And oftentimes I'd even put a little bit of makeup on, not much. And then I'd sit on the couch. There was nothing else to do. But I didn't feel good about myself if I didn't do that. Now, that's not for everyone. I have friends who are not comfortable in that. That was just me. I needed to listen to me, otherwise I would have gotten depressed. So it's like
yeah.
knowing that feminine inside of you or that masculine. So now you have, what is it? There's 12 traps.
No, there's 10
There's
traps,
10
but
traps.
there are subsequent chapters about also what an aligned partnership feels like in the body and how to recognize it. And the first thing about an aligned partnership, no matter where you are in the world, is safety. A woman needs to feel safe
Yes.
in her body
Yes.
with a man, and her emotions and her mind and her spirit. And I think if men need to invest in one thing, only one thing, that would be how to inculcate a safe container for their partner.
Right. And so how did they find it? So I've watched and there's a lot of talk about our own food and the chemicals and things they put in the water that the testosterone levels have dropped significantly. There's a lot of things that have done to manipulate people's genetics and things in food and whatever you want to talk about. So and not being raised to be a man, right, that the protector, that person, so there's a lot that's missing, like that's not taught, and then the idea of vulnerability is also terrifying. And you get a bunch of SEAL team warriors up there, and they'll tell you that vulnerability is one of the biggest superpower you can have, because you have to be able to trust, like when they move in groups, someone is the eyes, someone is an arm, someone is a leg,
Yeah.
someone is the ears. Like they move together. It's that vulnerability of understanding that the trust and the connection that needs to happen, that's not being taught. It's not being demonstrated. It's not being modeled for us on either side, for the women and the men. So where do the men go? How did they, in your book, what is it that they need to learn and how can they learn from?
Yeah, I think the first step would be to read it with an open mind, and be like, even if they identify as one of the man traps, to have an open mind of this questioning of how can I learn and grow from this instead of going on the defensive. I think a lot of the times there is a tendency when you get triggered, men and women both, we go on the defense. Hey, I don't do that. They don't, that's that the guard goes up. And that's what I mean by vulnerability. And in fact, vulnerability is a sign of strength and growth. Like
Yes.
there is something, one of these spiritual teachers in India that I follow, she says is, when a tree is soft, that's when it has the potential to grow and be strong. When it's already hard, there's no potential left. The bark is already solid. So it's in if you are allowing and feeling the emotions and not getting tense or defensive, and the guard isn't going up, and you're like, okay, so I do this, okay, so I am controlling, and I am controlling the very womb that I've come from. So how can I really inculcate equality in my potential or current partnership? So
Yeah.
these questions need to be asked.
Because I can't imagine that a man who's a control freak or a man who's any of these 10 traps is really genuinely happy.
Yeah, it comes from deep misery, and yeah, they're not happy. Yeah, for
They're not
sure.
happy. So from the standpoint of culturally, you're as a visionary, right? Because you're planting seeds that need to happen. And the more people that you could get, because the more women who start to emanate this kind of thing and set an example and showing and mirroring back to men, because men will do what they'll do until they can't get away with it anymore, till they
Yeah.
realize that a woman's going to have hard boundaries with them and say no. People don't change, right? If the status quo keeps happening.
Yeah.
So this is really about, culture, changing the culture.
Right. Both men and women have to take hard steps. And I think you have there is a movement towards going to the heart space. You
Hmm.
cannot be vibrating from just sex, need, base,
Right.
that kind of energy. There is a call to action for both the man and the woman to step more into not a power game with each other, but a heart space opening,
Right.
communication, emotional intimacy. I think these things are so lacking. I mean,
Yeah. And women, you talk about the safety and security, women tend to go for men who are more financially secure. But what happens with that when the relationship is based on that, looks on one side and the financial, you know, draw there, it's a very shallow relationship. There's not a lot of substance there, and then on top of that, it can become very controlling.
yeah, the woman becomes dependent on the man, and
And
then the man takes
possession.
advantage of that. Yes.
Yes. And you become a possession. And
Yeah.
so the idea of thinking, oh, I'm going to marry a wealthy man might initially seem appealing, but unless you know what's under that, you could be putting yourself into
A really messy
a
situation.
really messy situation.
Yeah. So there is, for me, that thing is the counter to that, is that the message is simple. Men need to move more towards the heart space. Women need to become more self-reliant in every way, so that there is no dependence, and it's more interdependence. That's what, um, when I envision the future of relationships, because that's what the message is. There needs to be this, you're not collapsing into each other. There is this beautiful interdependence, and these ideas of two wholes coming together is not just in theory, but it's lived.
Mhm.
So I keep coming back to that, because it's beautiful to say all this, but then when you live it, it's very different.
See, I
Very.
mean, and you make that point. It's two wholes coming together, not two
Yes.
halves.
Right. And the twin flame, that's what they say, right? It's two half. I mean, that's just a load of crap. How can a soul be half? That's
Well,
not
here's an interesting dynamic when you think about like the soulmate versus a soulmate can be anyone. A soulmate can be someone who contracts or a twin flame to contract to come into your life to wreak havoc for you to have a lesson. A
right.
soulmate isn't that, the lights shine and you see, hear angels and, angel wings come out and all of a sudden you see your partner across the room. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I think it's really important for people to understand. Like, I had someone who created a lot of pain in my life, a lot. And I went to that place of forgiveness. And then I was able to go into the place of I'm grateful for them. I don't want to have them in my life anymore, but I am who I am because of them.
Right.
And being at a place of peace. And when you can release all that negativity, right, which you have all these techniques and examples to do, because when you get to a place of neutrality, that's what being in the present moment is, correct?
Absolutely. And these, and even all these men in my life are mirrors and catalysts. Without them, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have written the book. I wouldn't have had this juicy life experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have anything against them. I mean, I don't hold grudges. I don't have any negativity. In fact, and what's interesting is somebody else who read and reviewed the book in Switzerland said, it's very interesting to me that you attracted 10 very different patterns. Usually, people attract the same
The same.
pattern. Yeah. So what's interesting to me, she said, is that it's almost as if you wrote the book for the collective as a manual of what can be out there. And not all of this is your cross to bear. Because a
Yes.
lot of the time, yeah, that resonated with me because I was almost like, I told the reader, this is why, I mean, you might think that I'm almost naive or too love struck to keep um, falling into these traps. But I think, and there was a side of me that was always hopeful for love and still is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's a gift, right? That the heart isn't closed; it's not shut off, and it has endured and forgiven, and it's still open to love and the beauty of old-fashioned romance.
Right. And one of the things that I so appreciate about you is your own vulnerability, because most people are like, well, um, you know, you've had your share of a lot of trauma in your life, and you can choose to talk about that or not. But the point is that the working on the healing and that we're always a work in progress, this doesn't mean that you have to have that end result, that knight in shining armor at the end. Like your work still isn't finished, my work still isn't finished, none of it is. And I appreciate your vulnerability to say, look, these are the traps that I've experienced. I want to help you. I'm still going through this myself, right?
Yeah. So, what was really pivotal is I find that they were, if I had to, there are things that attract unhealed partnerships.
Right.
One is the inner child, which is seeking love externally.
And approval.
Then
Yeah.
there is the inner teenager, which is sexual and impulsive, and that's all the one night stand energy,
Right.
right? All the really impulsive stuff that we do maybe in our 20s and 30s, or maybe we keep doing them. So what was a game changer for me was hypnotherapy. I actually am still in hypnotherapy, and I have a beautiful therapist from Jakarta, and I've been with her for the last year. First, finding a therapist is in itself a very daunting task. And the deeper you are as a multidimensional being, for someone to really resonate and understand you, it's not so simple, because CBT and stuff like that just didn't work for me. I felt like I was playing catch up with my therapist. And so hypnotherapy for me worked brilliantly. And when I let go of my inner child, so I had a very, very difficult childhood, which set the foundation for then an abusive marriage, and then relationship after relationship of trauma. So once I let go of the inner child, it was like, imagine an aura with a lot of blocks of baggage and luggage that you just let go. And it was like that. We did session upon session of work with inner child healing.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's very deep. These are like 2 hour sessions, 1 hour of talking, getting to the crux of the matter, 1 hour deep of subconscious work. So these are really, and then the work assimilates in your body for 3 to 4 days. So this is not easy work.
Yeah.
And that's when I felt light and that I had really let go of these, and I that's why I take full responsibility. I mean, these were, it's like you're sending out this beacon into the world of like, this is my unhealed trauma, like you're like, attract that, you know.
No, but I totally resonate with what you say because I talk about this openly. I had a nervous breakdown when you and I had met. I was going through that whole process still of that nervous breakdown, and hypnosis was saved my life because I
Yeah,
didn't want to be here anymore. And so the whole idea of, right now we're in a state of beta, which is just our conscious mind. If you think about trying to remember things that have happened to us in our lives, we have gaps because
yeah,
our conscious mind protects us. So we can go back and go, I don't remember like all of second grade. Or I don't remember, going to that party where other people say, yeah, you did this. When you go deeper into these other layers, into alpha state, theta state, these states are where that information is, and you're accessing it and you're healing it where it is. And that's why
absolutely.
people, I get frustrated when I see hypnosis portrayed the way it does, either just on stages or shown in movies, with this circular thing that spins around, or, a little pendulum that goes back and forth. I don't do that. People are
Yeah,
naturally in the state of hypnosis 7 to 10 times a day. If you ever daydream or miss an exit, you're actually in hypnosis. So it's
yeah.
nothing to be
Or
afraid of.
listen to music that's meditative. You can
Yeah.
have, I mean, sometimes driving, I would have outer body experiences. I mean,
Yeah.
I just in and out of,
Yeah. Come on back.
that's why I don't drive in India. I'm a hazard of like of traffic. So, but yes, it's very, and it's definitely, it's very, very deep work, and I would really, and if you can easily go into that, a lot of people have these blocks; they can't go into meditative spaces easily. But if you can, go into it, it's just it's just life changing work,
Well, then,
and
but what you do in the somatic, it's the same thing. You're just accessing because your body holds on to it too. So
right.
in your workbook, you're helping people access without going into hypnosis. You're accessing where that trauma is in the body and releasing, and you don't need to re-traumatize yourself. You don't need to relive it all. You're just letting it go.
Yeah, movement is amazing. Just shaking things off, just listening to your gut. I mean, it's just, if you can develop your intuition is your strongest tool. And that is the other ultimate message of the book, is know your intuition. And intuition is not this woo woo thing that only healers and witch doctors do. We all have intuition,
Sure.
and we can all listen to it, and long before something goes awry, we know that that's not right for us.
Right.
We know
And how many women have been taught to override our intuition? When
things.
we're with someone, we're taught not to hurt their feelings, right? And
Yeah.
things are, you're getting more and more uncomfortable. That's when you need to leave. That's when it's like okay to say, you know what, I need to go home now, or I need to get out of this situation before it's too late.
Yes, what I noticed was it's your intellect that, in my situation, what would happen is, I'll just give you an example. because I'm also an intelligent person. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, but I'm like, my body is like, no, 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 get out, get out. And then my mind is like, but, maybe he didn't mean it. And, maybe this wasn't abusive. And until that person socks you a punch, you're not listening. And now you're on the floor bleeding or something,
Right.
So it just is this. That's why so many one of the hooks of the book is smarter women sometimes fall for more traps because they override their intuition and they intellectualize their body's signals because they haven't been taught by society, by their families, by anybody to listen to their heart and their gut, which is the center of everything. I mean, how we cook sometimes is so organic. How we tend to plant, it's just how we are made. The feminine is made in that way, right? So how can we bypass that? It
Right.
just baffles me. And I mean, I've
No,
done it.
I
So
totally agree with you. And that's why this book is so important. The exercises are for men and for women to help you start to release that trapped energy because, I remember going through my divorce and thinking that I was the victim, right? Because whenever you're in a bad relationship, you're always like, well, this person did this to me. And my ex was doing the same thing. In his mind, he was the victim. There's no place for that because in
yeah.
every relationship, you have to take responsibility for your own part in it, even if it means I stayed. My
Yes.
responsibility was the fact that I stayed.
Yes,
My
even in
res-
an like in an in the abusive marriage that I was in, I took the responsibility that I was in the abusive cycle. He would apologize, I would believe it,
Yep.
and the abuse would get worse, which is
Yes.
what the abusive cycle is. And I took
Yes.
4 years of that. Now, if somebody does even an iota of that with me, I mean, I'm out of that situation.
Exactly. It's knowing yourself and loving yourself enough to
Right.
say no and honoring because this gets you out of the cycles. Like when there's a saying, when you point your finger at someone else, there's three fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah.
There's a mirror out there. If you're in a bad relationship, take a look at you and you're part of it so you don't
Yes.
repeat that again.
Yes. I mean, it's all like they say in Hindu in Hindi they say "sab kuch maya hai," which means it's all an illusion. So it's almost like we are creating our universe to accelerate our soul path. So we have created this entire. I'm taking
Right.
it up a notch and throwing some Hindu philosophy in here, and we are in a play, right? And this is our reality that our soul chose, and it's up to us to come out of that reality. And if it's a dark reality, and it's just accelerating the soul's growth through pain, through learning, and it's I have this beautiful, I feel like the universe and God gave me one superpower, I say, to turn pain into wisdom. I
I
just
say that all the time. Turn your pain to wisdom. Keep
like,
the lesson. Yes,
yes,
that's
be the
beautiful.
change maker. Right, as
Yeah.
Anne used to say, be the change maker.
Well,
So
if you think about what's happening right now in the world as the frequency of the earth is shifting and changing and raising.
yeah.
So, my understanding is there's a bifurcation that's happening, right? So, we are required in order to ascend to be in that love state
Right.
and to
Right.
treat people.
Despite all the stuff that it's like it's like this video game of like this blob gets thrown at you and then you still like shine love at it. and I feel like there's always a crossroad, and it's like there's a dark choice you can make and there's a light choice you can make at every point, and one can choose, right,
Right.
what you do. So always a path of love, when I say love and light, I don't mean that really like fluffy duffy like rainbows and unicorns. Truth speaking is also love and light.
Yes.
Clarity is also love and light. Power, saying no, this is also love and light. So, respect. This is love and light.
It is. We have been tricked through this spiritual community to bypass, right? Oh, they didn't really mean that. Or true spiritual healing is badass, kick-ass, turning yourself inside out. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
say,
right.
but it
Confronting
is.
shadow work is very important. I mean, a lot. So, that's the other thing. I think the triggers are your shadows for men and women. I had a lot of women read the book in India and the US, and they said I was triggered. And the one reason I was triggered is because I stayed longer than I should have in every one of the traps that I was in your book. They were not in all of the traps, thank God.
Right.
But
Unlike you.
I'm the special one that gets
Yeah.
all the 10, 10 awards, right? But yeah, so they were triggered that they stayed longer, that they didn't have. So I want to especially give that book to, for me, it's like this a manual into the world of like, if I had this, say, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, maybe I wouldn't have made these mistakes. Maybe I would have um seen some, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel, you
Right.
know.
But here's the thing that I like to say to people who are really struggling with the fact that they stayed too long. When you're in a relationship, you want to do everything possible to make that work.
Right.
Turn over every stone, look at everything, especially if you're in a marriage and there's children.
Yeah.
And I remember going through my situation going, how do you know when it's time? And people kept saying to me, you'll just know. And I'm like, well, I've been so unhappy for so long. Why don't I leave now? And people are like, because you're not ready. And then there was the moment, and I knew.
What was the moment for you, if you don't mind sharing?
The moment for me was I did so you and I studied with Anne who had been trained in firewalk, right? She did Tony Robbins works with Sundor and they do this. So she asked me if I wanted to go through her firewalk facilitation program. I didn't really want to do it to learn how to do firewalks with people. I knew I needed something to jar me. Like I needed to get hit hard. I knew I needed someone to hit me with a baseball bat to get me out. And that had to be me. So the week was breaking arrows through the soft part of my throat. It was bending a 10-foot piece of rebar from the soft part of my throat with a partner on the other side walking towards each other. I still have that piece of rebar. It was walking 4 feet of broken wine bottles, glass, without getting cut. And every night for a week, walking 7 to 10 feet of red hot coals. Now, what I was told the first night was Sunday, and graduation was the following Saturday. And I was told that in order to graduate, I had to walk 40 feet of red hot coals. And I went into a spiral of fear, and I was convinced that I was going to die. So every single thing that I did that week, I couldn't appreciate because all I was doing was projecting onto the future that I was never going to be able to do it. So it was a metaphor for my life. I was watching myself, kind of like hovering over myself, go through all these things, even though I was accomplishing all these amazing things. I wasn't appreciating it. I didn't believe in myself. I just like, oh, I just did it and then move on. Whereas, one of those things alone is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. The bar thing is massive. I don't know how you did that.
I don't know how I did it either. I still have the bar next to me. I have photos of me holding it. I'm like, holy, I can't bend it at all. And what happened was I was getting ready to do the 40-foot fire, and my partner, who was coaching me through it, and he said to me, how much fire have you walked this week? And I'm like, well, 7 to 10 feet of red hot coals every night. And he said, have you walked over 40 feet? And I said, yes. And he said, then you've already got this. So go. You've already
Yeah.
done it. And it was a switch went off. I walked it. I didn't feel a thing. And I went across to the other side and rang the bell and just stood there in disbelief. And at that moment, I was like, I just did something that most people would think that they would die. I thought my feet were going to be amputated. I mean, I just couldn't fathom it. And I went home and there were words that were said to me, and I was like, I'm done. The switch was done. And then I knew. And then we went through the process of slowly coming undone. Probably within less than 6 months, we were then separated. There was still some work that needed to be done, but I knew at that moment I had a lot of work to do, and that was the final part. Wishing for them to change, wishing that I would change, wishing, and going into depression and realizing that the only person who was ever going to save me was me. There was no
Yeah,
knight in shining armor who was going to come and whisk me onto their horse and we were going to ride into the sunset. And if
right.
that does happen, then take a good look at one of your traps.
For sure. I think what what you really said, I think there is this moment of, even my divorce was like that. It was like leading up, leading up, leading up, and then there was this moment, and it was just gone. A moment of clarity. And I think what I wanted to, I think there's a test, right, of a relationship that is being good for you. A woman blossoms when she is in love and in
Yes.
in the right energy, and that blossom also happens when she's alone. Now if a relationship takes away and dims your light, like you said, I was sad for so many years, I was, you probably, your light was dim, and now, like, you're one of my inspirations. You are that author and speaker that I hope to be one day. And I'm slowly getting there, and I'm on rung one, and Lisa is on rung 100, and so
I don't know
uh,
about that, but you know, but I will say you're right. I mean, I had to be alone. I had to be
yeah,
on my own to believe in myself because I was trained to give my power away.
right,
And that
right,
was a huge part of what I did for most of my life. And that was a lot about my upbringing too, was I was not allowed to be me.
yeah, yeah,
So learning that and discovering that I had to learn to be me and love me no matter what. And
yeah,
pay attention to your self-talk, right?
yeah,
At beating ourselves up, that's taking the responsibility for yourself. And I look at where I've come from where I was. I mean, from when I met you, I was an absolute mess. Absolute mess, honestly.
I mean, no, I feel like the core is always so beautiful, and we don't really change who we are. Our soul is always intact. My mother
Right.
used to say this, who is in a still is in an abusive marriage, and she says, "Whatever happens to me externally, my core remains." And I think that's, we are always. I mean, that is what is enduring all that, and then eventually shining and letting go of all that baggage. So I saw this fieriness in you, and I'm sure you saw this sass in me, even 15 years ago. And now it's just, we've stepped more and more into who we are, and that's beautiful. And um, we don't want any unhealed partners taking away from that. We want, and I really say this, we want additions and accentuations to our life, not someone who dims our light and drags us
Right.
down.
And here's the other part about taking responsibility. A friend of mine told me to think about this. She said, make a list of the perfect partner that you would like to be with. And I did. And then she said, would that person want to be with you? Are you at the point where that
Right.
person would be attracted to you? And I was like, wow, I don't know. And that really made me sit and think, like, would that person want to be with me? And that's when I realized that I had some additional work to do.
Yeah,
And yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah. So you have these 10 traps. What else can you tell people from the book? Is there anything that we've missed? I mean, you said that this is for men and women. This is not just, and this is not about male bashing or female bashing. This is about us coming together as the divine feminine and the divine masculine to create our new way of how we're supposed to be, not how we have been brainwashed to be and manipulated to be.
Right. I want to say one more thing is that apart from the intuition and the somatic exercises and the aligned partnership, I think it's very key that two people have their own individual lives and do not, maybe not even, I'm going to say something a little controversial, but they don't cohabitate and they don't live under the same roof. Because what tends to happen is a lot of things, um, you tend to take each other for granted. You start caretaking each other's needs, usually the woman, and there's no newness and spark left, right? After
Right.
like 2 years, you're just roommates. So,
But you know what's really interesting? There was a community that I was part of. There was a spiritual community that I was part of in Italy that has this one thing that people who get married within this community, they have to renew their vows every year. They
right.
have to
Yeah.
tell the other person whether or not they're still committed to them.
Yeah.
So it keeps you on your toes, right?
Right. Right.
Because if I'm not respecting and honoring my partner, then they have the right to turn around and say, nah, I don't want to do another year of this. So I loved
Yeah.
that idea because then it keeps you dating, it keeps you honoring and respecting. And I think it's possible for people to live together and treat each other that way. It takes a special relationship to do that, but I think it's possible. But I think the whole idea of the way people are meeting these days with the Tinder and all these dating apps, and then what these kids have been taught is sleep with each other first and then get to know each other
Yeah.
instead of that magic and the mystery and waiting. There's something really special about that that's missing in relationships.
Yes. So I want to say that now I want to just talk a little bit about the basic mismatch that I noticed between men and women. Women look for emotional intimacy and safety, and men look for physical intimacy and their needs being met. Here lies the basic clash,
Right.
right? So, in general, I'm speaking in general. So, there, how can a man establish safety when he just wants to get in bed first? There's no time for that. You haven't even met each other, and you're already talking like sex. So it baffles me. I'm like, I
Yeah.
mean, how is this happening? I mean, I'll give you an example. Recently, some writer guy is telling me he tastes good than the lemon cake I'm ordering, and he had better than the lemon cake I'm ordering. I haven't even met him yet. I mean, I found that so unsafe and
Creepy.
it's creepy. I'm like, what is this? I mean, he was immediately, I had to send him a big boundary message and block him. I'm the queen of blocking. Like,
I wonder how men would react if they were treated the way they treat women.
right? It would be a great experiment.
It would be. I just wonder if they would actually enjoy that or if that would make them uncomfortable. It's interesting. You know, you have a lot to deal with in a culture in India where the men are, it's so ingrained in the culture.
Yeah.
And I really hope and pray that your book can be the beginning of planting a seed and giving people hope and creating a community where people can have each other. Maybe this book becomes a dating site for people who are looking for that kind of relationship. Who
Right.
knows where it'll go from there? But I so admire your courage and your tenacity to really put this forward in a place where is considered the rape capital of the world. And hopefully we can spread the word to the rest of the world and really help people better understand what divine love looks like, what the divine
Yeah.
masculine and what the divine feminine looks like, and how we can truly honor each other, because that's where we're moving,
Right.
whether people like it or not, in the way that the whole, from a spiritual standpoint, frequencies rising, there's going to be no place for these kinds of games, that 3D games. We're moving
Yeah.
into the fifth dimension. This is important to forgive,
Right.
and it's important to love and honor
And
yourself
be
and
truthful.
and
I
be
mean,
true.
I don't understand if this. See, I'm very very idealistic. I'm still very romantic, and I'm someone who is a propagator of divine love.
Mm,
I do believe that those codes of energy coming together and beautifully interacting, not merging, but that Shiv Shakti. I mean, I live by that. I
mm,
have inculcated it within myself. These are energies. I don't even, they're not religious deities that I look up to, but these are energies that I even embrace within myself, right?
yeah.
And when a man or when a partner, I mean, it's not just man, woman. I mean, these are even for same sex relationships. We all have the Ardhanarishwar
Yeah.
within us. We have the Shiv Shakti. And you can clearly see, if you are intuitive enough, you can see in a person whether their divine masculine and divine feminine is balanced or not. You can see it,
Yeah.
and I think that's a whole energy. So,
Wow. I could talk to you for hours. This has been amazing. I love your book. And I'm going to have the link below for people to be able to order it, and any contact information for you if people have any further questions. But this is so needed right now, and your timing is perfect. And I'm so thrilled that we've reconnected, because it's been too long, and I'm so proud of you. This was a lot. I mean, for people to understand what it takes to write a book and put yourself out there, it's a big deal. So
yeah, it's
congratulations on this.
definitely lived experience. Books are not easy to write
No.
because you see everything in print over and over again and you're rehashing. I mean, I
Ah,
went through like creative exhaustion after this book.
it is. It's like a painting. When do you know when to stop? It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah,
So that's why there's always your second and your third and your fourth book.
right. I think my next book is going to be like stories on my dog and keep it light.
I know.
How he eats
I
like
thought
liver and stuff.
I'll do an easier book. I'll do a collaborative book. That took me twice as long. I'm still working on it.
Right. But that looks amazing. Somebody posted about it. Congratulations on that.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
great
thank you. Yeah,
project. Yeah.
we are quantum, all about how we
Yeah.
our abilities of being quantum beings. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for the plug. So
Yeah.
anyway, Kalashree, I'll have your information. So the name of your book is, again, The Man Trap: Reclaiming Your Power and Intuition in Relationships. Sorry, I put my notes over there. Anything
Yeah.
else about the book, or anything, if people have any questions, how to contact you?
Yeah, so I think the best way is on the Amazon page, amazon.com. It's internationally available. The Man Traps
Yeah.
and Kalashree Sengupta at Gmail is my
Okay,
official email
I'll put
address.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but other than
All right.
that, it's been an absolute pleasure to reconnect and be in touch with Lisa and uh, powwow with her
Yeah.
about divine male and divine female, and hopefully these are not just I it's really, it's my last message is that these are not, I keep wanting to drive this home. Spirituality is not just these ideas and notions. It's living it, it's breathing it, it's embodying it. And if it is not these things, it's not real spirituality, that's pseudo.
Yes.
I really, that is authenticity and living by that code,
Yes.
so, of truth.
Yes.
So that's my
All
last
right.
message. So thank you.
Well, those are beautiful words to live by. So, Kalashri, thank you again, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you.